Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a story time video for you. This is the first story time that I've ever done. Actually a pretty sad story time, but nonetheless I wanted to tell it to the world. This event took place September 13th, 2013. By the 13th, I mean Friday the 13th. And I'm not a superstitious person, and to be honest, I think it was just a coincidence. The puppy that we're talking about is Gracie. She was a beautiful miniature Dachshund, a chocolate and tan to be specific. She had quite the personality. She was my little sidekick. I had gotten her at 4 months old. Got her in January of 2013. So I had only had this baby for 8-ish months before this happened. And when this did happen, she had just turned 1 year old. This day started like any other. My boyfriend had went and picked up his daughter and my stepdaughter. She was gonna be coming and staying with us for the weekend like she usually did. At the time, my stepdaughter Ava, you've seen her in videos that I've done before, or if you haven't, you can go to my channel and find those videos. But at the time, she was only like 8.5 years old. So what I like to do every time that she would come and stay with us for the weekend or whenever, I always like to take her out and do a little something with her just to, you know, spend time with her. I was waiting for them to come back home so that me and Ava could go to get some frozen yogurt. So of course Gracie went along with us, and we were just gonna go to the frozen yogurt place, grab some frozen yogurt, and then sit outside on the patio tables and eat it out there so that we could have Gracie out there with us on the leash. As we were driving in, there is a Petsmart like 2 or 3 doors down from the frozen yogurt place. Once a month they would have like a adoption agency adopt out dogs or cats. So when we drove by, we saw like some, you know, they had like several different dogs. So when Ava saw those, she got all excited and she's like, can we go see those? So of course I was like, yeah, of course, we'll just go after we eat our yogurt. So I figured we would just walk down the sidewalk a little bit and go and say hello to the little dogs in the crates. I think there was 3 dogs that were in separate crates, so there were 3 crates there. And one thing I noticed, like, I didn't really think anything of it at the time, but there wasn't anyone around the crates. Like, there was no one supervising. The dogs are just out on the sidewalk, like right in front of the doors of PetSmart. And I thought that was really odd, but I mean, I didn't really think anything of it because I'm like, why would they put dogs out here, you know, that were aggressive or something? We went up and we were petting the dogs and they were licking our hands and they were all excited to see us. The 2 that were in the back were like beagles, and then there was like this blonde colored dog. It was kind of a medium-sized dog. I didn't know what other mix of breed that it had in it, but I could tell that it had a little bit of pit bull in it just by its facial structure or whatever. It wasn't a full-blooded pit bull. We were mostly paying attention to that one because it was just acting so excited and so happy to see us. It was just so happy. I had Gracie on one of those little retractable leashes, and I looked back and Gracie she was probably like 6 or 7 feet like behind us on the sidewalk, and she was just kind of sitting down and she kept looking back at me or the dog or whatever, and she just looked terrified. And I wasn't gonna force her to come over there near the dogs if she was too scared to, and I figured we were gonna leave in a few minutes anyways, so it's not a big deal. I'll let Ava pet the dogs a little more and then we'll go. Within that span of time of me like noticing that Gracie was extremely terrified, and I turned my head back around and blonde dog, it just bursted out of the crate somehow or another. This all happened so fast, so I'm trying to explain it in the best way that I can. It jumped up on Ava and pushed her up against the wall, and it bit her on the arm. And it didn't really break any skin, it just bruised it pretty badly. And I think that it only did that to Ava because she was in the path of what he wanted, which was Gracie. It never once growled, it never acted strange. It was just happy and licking our hands. I had absolutely no clue. And second of all, this dog was in a crate, and I never imagined that the dog like would break out of a secure crate, you know? Nothing like that ever crossed my mind, so that's why I never sensed any danger. Ava just was kind of standing where the dog had pushed her to, just stood there and just in shock watching it all happen. You know, my immediate response was to go towards Ava. Dogs and cats are very important to me. But of course, my human stepdaughter is my priority always. It had gotten Ava out of the way, and so started towards Gracie. And I didn't know if Ava was okay, so my first priority was to, you know, make sure she was okay. I think I had let go of Gracie's leash when I saw it jump on Ava because it just scared the crap out of me. Gracie might have started to run, but she only got maybe a couple feet before the dog literally just grabbed her by the nape of the neck and started, like, you know how they'll shake their head with like a toy or something? Well, it was shaking, he was shaking her like that and basically like slamming her on the pavement. About that time, after he had shook his head like one good time, I ran over, and the area behind his ears, there was like a lot of skin there, and I grabbed it and pulled him up and ripped him off of Gracie. He was literally standing on his back 2 legs because I was pulling his head up. And I've never in my life felt so angry and vicious towards a dog in my life than I did at that very moment. Literally wanted to decapitate that dog. That's how angry I was. And I guess it's just like a motherly instinct, but I mean, I have never felt that way towards a dog or a cat. And as I was standing there holding the dog off of her, I was yelling for help because I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't move the dog. I couldn't do anything with the dog because the dog was fighting against me, and it was trying to turn its head around to like bite at me. And I turned around and looked back, and there was like several different people or women running from a minivan that was in the parking lot, and apparently they were the adoption agency or something. Before they could even get there, this is the weirdest thing about this whole story. Sort of short guy, curly hair, and he had blue jeans on, and that's all I remember, in a white shirt. I literally just saw a glimpse of him right before he grabbed the dog, and then when he grabbed the dog, and you know, like before I could even turn around, he had thrown the dog in the cage and locked him up, secured him in there, and he was nowhere to be found. Like, I didn't even see the doors go open or him go inside, and I thought that was so strange that he would do that and then just leave and not even see if we were okay, you know? Like, I just thought that was really, really strange, but I'm very glad that he did grab the dog from me and take care of him, because I was about to lose grip of him right as he took him from me. That was when the women from the adoption agency had made it over to where we were, and I ran over to Gracie, and there was pee all around her because she just lost control of everything. Picked her up, and I was like, you know, saying her name, kind of like tapping her on the side of the face. She would try to look at me, and then her eyes would just like fall over, like she couldn't like control them. My first instinct was to look for like blood or cuts or, you know, something bad like that, and I looked all over her body and I couldn't see any blood, I couldn't see any cuts or anything really. One of the ladies from the adoption agency took her from me and was trying to like look her over and see what was wrong. They ended up calling an emergency vet it was in the next city over from where we were. So the lady was like, well, I'll put her in my van and you can follow me down there. I feel so terrible because at the time Ava was really upset, of course. And I just told her, you know, I think Gracie's just in shock. The vet's gonna take care of her. You know, I was just trying to comfort her, and I truly thought that she didn't really have like any kind of super like critical injury or anything. And they took her back immediately, of course, and we waited and waited and waited and waited. The assistant manager of Petsmart also showed up while we were waiting. Eventually they came out and they told us that she didn't have any kind of like trauma to her body, but she did have some pretty severe head trauma. Head trauma didn't even cross my mind. Like I didn't even think of that. Her head must have slammed against the pavement when he, you know, was shaking her. She had a lot of swelling on the brain, and she said that usually it's going to swell more and more as time goes on. I was like, well, you know, do whatever you think is best and do whatever you can to save her life. Of course, the adoption agency is paying for all of the vet bills. So they said, well, all we can do at this point is keep her and watch her very closely and give her medication to try to help bring the swelling down. Eventually, they let us go back and see her before we ended up going home for the night. She looked so pitiful, and I think she was definitely drugged. So she was very calm. When I walked back and she heard my voice, she perked up, like her eyes opened completely, and she, you know, just looked at me and sort of wagged her tail a little bit, and that just made me feel so good to see that she was, you know, coherent enough to identify my voice and know who I was. But, you know, at the same time, the vet was not giving me super high hopes. I didn't really know what to think, but I was worried sick the entire night. And I finally slept for a few hours when we got home. But then around it was like 7 or 8 a.m., the phone rang and it was the vet. And the vet basically said that swelling was just out of control on her brain, and was pressing on the part that, you know, allows your body to breathe. She said that like 95% sure that she was eventually just going to pass. She just thought it might be best to just let her go. So if you think it's best to just go ahead and put her to sleep and put her out of her misery, because I don't want her to have this like prolonged, painful, torturous death. She's already been through enough. And so through my tears, I told her to just let her go. And then I hung up the phone and I just cried my eyes out. And then Ava had gone downstairs to get something like cereal or something and had came back up, and I wasn't able to say anything to her, so Chip told her that Gracie had passed. The most heart-wrenching things is to have to hear her response to that, because she loved that dog, and Gracie loved her. She just bawled her eyes out, just made me cry like that much harder. We had to discuss, well, we have to go down there and get her body so that we can bury it properly. Eventually we decided that we would take her body up to my parents' farm and bury her there with all of the other pets that I have lost throughout the years. Even the dog that I grew up with was buried there. Got her body, and they gave us one of those little clay like plaque things with her paw print on it. When we made the drive up to my parents' house, it was very difficult, but we got through that. The dog was put down. It sucks that because of the adoption agency's irresponsibility, that 2 dogs had to die. And I did find out later that that adoption agency, like the lady that was over it, was awful outside of this incident that occurred, and that adoption agency is no longer in existence. Well, the good thing is they did pay I think it was like $2,000 to $3,000, the vet bill, and they were supposed to pay for us to get a new dog. You know, a few days went by and we had found a new dog that we wanted. Of course, not to replace Gracie at all. She could never be replaced. But for me, it really helps to heal my broken heart when I have a new dog or puppy to care for, to give me love and to give it love in return. That's just how I heal. She was also a miniature Dachshund, but she was a piebald. I called the lady that was over the adoption agency to tell her that, hey, we found a dog that we want to get. We need you to pay to get this dog for us. I knew her voice too, so I knew that it was her, and I knew I had the right number. I told her who I was and why I was calling. She had the nerve to say, I have no idea what you're talking about, and literally hung up on me. I didn't know what else to do, so if you remember, I said that the assistant manager of Petsmart had came down to the vet when we took Gracie there and stayed the whole time we were there. And we contacted him. We told him what the adoption agency did to us, and he said, we will take care of the money that it costs to get your new puppy, and we also want you to come in and do a complete shopping spree, get whatever you want or whatever you think you need for your dog, and it will be on us. And that's what we did. We went and picked up our little Callie, then we went back by PetSmart and they let us go on a full shopping spree through the whole store, and we got a whole slew of things. PetSmart was absolutely wonderful to us with the whole thing, and it wasn't even really their fault. So I am really grateful to PetSmart for doing what they did to help us out. Still, thankfully, have my little Callie today, and she is a little over 3 years old now. This is my little Callie bear, and I hope to have her for many years to come. That was my first story time. I hope that you enjoyed. I definitely have other stories that I can share that are a little less depressing. That's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so very much for taking the time to watch and listen. I hope you are having a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye. Oh, you know my lip gloss smells good, okay? But no more sniffing my mouth. So funny. You're so funny.